The stars were cold and sharp against the black velvet of deep space. The United Nations ship Vengeance hung in the silence, a gray spear of metal and contained energy. On its bridge, the soft beeps of consoles and the hum of the life support were the only sounds. Captain Min sat in his command chair, his face calm under the soft glow of the main screen. He was not an old man, but his eyes held the weight of years spent watching the void. To his right, Pilot Hannah's fingers danced over her navigation panel, running a routine diagnostic. Her expression was focused, her black hair tied back neatly. "All systems are nominal, Captain," she said, her voice even. "The patrol route is quiet, again." Ensign June, the youngest on the bridge, tried to hide a yawn behind his hand. His job at communications was mostly listening to static on these fringe routes. He was thinking about the bad coffee in the mess hall when his console lit up with a sudden, frantic pulse of red light. A sound followed a distorted, screaming burst of data. "Captain!" June's voice cracked with surprise. "I'm picking up a distress beacon. Automated. Source is the Golan 7 trading outpost." Min leaned forward. "Put it on speaker." Full analysis. The signal that filled the bridge was a broken, looping cry for help. It was not a voice, but a machine's final shout. "Multiple hostiles. Cathari signatures. They're breaking through. They're taking everyone. The transmission cut off into a hiss of dead noise. The name Cathari changed the air on the bridge. Everyone had heard the stories. A species that grew their empire, not by building, but by taking. They prized strength above all, and saw other races as tools, or as things to be broken into tools. Set a course for Golan 7. Min ordered, his voice still quiet, but now edged with steel. "Maximum sublight. Go to silent running. I want full sensor sweeps the moment we're in range." Hannah's hands moved without hesitation. The Vengeance turned, its engines flaring briefly before settling into a powerful, silent glide. The ship was a predator now, not a patroller. When Golan 7 appeared on the main screen, the silence on the bridge deepened. The outpost was a collection of domes and docking spires clinging to a large asteroid. Or it had been. Now, several domes were shattered, their insides open to vacuum. Dark scoring from energy weapons marked the metal walls. Scans showed no life signs. "None at all, Captain," June said, his face pale in the screen's light. "I'm reading residual Cathari ion trails. High energy. They left recently, and there are traces of organic matter in the debris. Multiple species. It was a clean out. They took every soul they didn't kill." Min's jaw tightened. "Record everything. This is now evidence." He was about to order a closer sweep for any survivors when Hannah's panel chimed a sharp warning. "Energy spike. Directly astern. Warp signature, it's big, and it's coming in hot." Space behind the Vengeance tore open. A vortex of purple and black energy swirled, and a ship forced its way into reality. It was the opposite of the clean lines of the human vessel. The Shithari ship, the Claw of Dominion, looked like a piece of jagged, dark bone that had been twisted and sharpened into a weapon. Spines and barbs ran along its hull, and a sickly green light glowed from its viewports and engine vents. It was visibly damaged. One of its main spines was shattered, and parts of its hull were blackened from recent fire. But it still moved with a menacing, predatory grace. On the main screen, a face appeared. It was the Cathari commander, Overseer Grawl. His skin was a mottled gray, his eyes large and black like pools of oil. A crown of small, sharp horns ringed his head. He looked at Captain Min with open contempt. Unknown vessel. Grawl's voice was a grating hiss, translated by the ship's computer. "You trespass in space, claimed by the Cathari Collective. You will identify yourselves. Min did not blink. This is the United Nations ship Vengeance. You are in unclaimed space. We are responding to a distress call from the Golan 7 outpost. Your ship matches the attacker's signature. Grawl let out a sound like rocks grinding together a laugh. The weaklings at Golan 7 failed to pay their tribute. They were harvested. Their lives now serve a greater purpose in our labor pools. It is an honor they did not deserve. He leaned closer to his own screen, his black eyes boring into Min's. Your ship is intact. You will surrender it immediately. Power down your engines and weapons. Prepare to be boarded. Your crew will be processed. If you are strong, you may serve. If you are weak, you will be recycled. This is the only offer you will receive. On the bridge of the Vengeance, Ensign June felt a cold fear grip his stomach. Hana's hands were poised over her controls, ready. She looked at Captain Min, waiting. Min's expression did not change. He spoke slowly, clearly, making sure every word was understood. Overseer Grawl, human ships do not accept prisoners. This is your only warning. Turn over any captives you have taken from Golan 7 and depart this region immediately. For a moment, there was only static on the channel. Then Grawl's grating laugh filled the bridge again, louder this time. Prisoners? You think this is about prisoners? You are property that has not yet been collected. You have no right to make demands. Your pathetic bluff is noted. He waved a clawed hand. We will add your ship to our fleet and your bodies to our stock. Boarding pods are away. Try to resist. It amuses us. The channel cut off. On the tactical screen, a dozen small, spiked projectiles shot away from the belly of the Claw of Dominion, streaking towards the Vengeance. Evasive action. Min's command was calm. Hana threw the ship into a hard turn. The Vengeance groaned as inertia fought against its gravity dampeners. 2 of the pods missed, spinning off into the dark. But the others were too many, and too fast. They were not missiles meant to destroy. They were designed to latch on. With metallic thumps that resonated through the hull, the pods attached themselves to the Vengeance's outer airlock doors and along secondary maintenance hatches. The sound of drilling and cutting began immediately, a harsh, screeching vibration. They're attaching at airlocks 3-7 and the port side maintenance hatch C-12, Hana reported, her voice tight. Seal all internal bulkheads around those points, Min ordered. Initiate Protocol Cinder. Ensign June's fingers flew over his console. Sending the final warning, sir. He opened a channel to the Cathari ship, broadcasting on the same frequency they had used. His voice, though young, was steady. Cathari vessel Claw of Dominion. You have initiated a boarding action against a United Nations ship. Your status as a hostile combatant is confirmed. The rule is in effect. You have been warned. On the screen, they could see the Claw of Dominion holding position, its weapons glowing, waiting for the boarding teams to secure the human ship from within. Grawl's arrogant face was no longer visible. He was no doubt expecting screams, and the sounds of battle to soon fill the humans' comms. But on the bridge of the Vengeance, there was only a grim, focused silence. Captain Min watched the status reports flash on his screen. The screeching from the hull grew louder as the Cathari cut through the outer doors. The boarders were coming. They were breaking the one rule every human in the fleet knew, the one rule carved into their training and their history, the rule the Cathari had just been told and had just chosen to ignore. The boarders were coming. And Captain Min's face was like stone. The sound was the worst part. It was not the boom of an explosion or the crack of a laser. It was a high-pitched, grinding shriek that vibrated through the bones of the ship. The Cathari boarding pods had attached themselves like metal leeches, and now their cutting beams were eating through the Vengeance's outer hull. On the bridge, the noise was a distant, angry buzz. In the corridors near the airlocks, it was a deafening scream that Captain Min did not move from his chair. His eyes were fixed on a smaller screen to his left, showing a schematic of his ship. 3 points along the port side glowed an angry red. "Status of the internal seals?" he asked. His voice was quiet, almost calm. At the engineering station, a man named Tay worked with quick, sure movements. He was older, with short gray hair and a permanent smudge of grease on his cheek. "Protocol center is active, Captain. All designated airlocks and the maintenance hatch are now internally locked. The rapid deployment drones have moved into position. They are welding the inner blast door shut as we speak." He tapped a key. Airlock 3 inner door is sealed. 7mm composite reinforcement is complete. "Good," Min said. Ensign June listened, his hands clenched on the edge of his console. He could hear the panic in the voices of the Cathari boarders now. Their communications, translated by the computer, spilled into the bridge on a secondary audio channel. "Outer door is breached. Moving into the airlock chamber. It is empty. The inner door is sealed. It will not open. Use the plasma cutters. Quickly." A new, sharper sound joined the first, the hiss and sputter of plasma against metal. It went on for a full minute. Then a confused voice. "The door. It is not melting. It is layered. They have sealed it from the other side with something else. We cannot cut through." Another voice from a different airlock. "We are also trapped. The outer door mechanism is ruined. We cannot go back." Captain Min's lips thinned slightly. That was the point. The pods were designed to breach and latch. They were not made to detach cleanly. They were doors that only opened one way. "Sergeant Sue," Min said, opening a channel to the marine deck. The face that appeared on the comm screen was all hard lines and focused intensity. Sergeant Sue had been waiting for this call. He was in full combat armor, but he was not in the corridors leading to the airlocks. He and his 12 Marines were positioned at key intersections deep inside the ship's interior. "Sergeant, report your positioning," Min said. "My squad is deployed at choke points Alpha, Beta, and Gamma, sir," Sue replied, his voice a low rumble. "All are 200 meters or more from the breached hull points. We have clear fields of fire down the main access corridors. Your orders remain," Min said, looking straight at the Marine. "Nothing gets past your line. Nothing that is not human. Is that understood?" "Perfectly, sir," Sue said, his eyes hard. "The floodgates are closed. Nothing is coming in." He cut the channel. His job was not to fight the boarders. It was to ensure that if, by some miracle, they got through the sealed doors, they would go no further. He and his Marines were the last, grim line of defense for the heart of the ship. On the Cathari ship, the Claw of Dominion, Overseer Grawl was growing impatient. He stared at his own tactical display, which showed the boarding pods successfully attached. He heard the initial reports of entering the airlocks. Then the reports stopped being about progress and started being about doors. "What is the delay?" He hissed at his sub-commander. "Why have they not captured the bridge yet? Where is the screaming?" "The humans. They have sealed the inner doors, Overseer. Our warriors are trapped in the entry chambers. They cannot advance." Grawl slammed a fist on his console, then burned through. "They are weak humans. Their metal is soft. The warriors are trying, Overseer. The doors are heavily reinforced, and the humans are not trying to fight them. Our scanners show no human life signs gathering at the breach points. Their soldiers are holding positions. Deep inside." Grawl fell silent. This made no sense. Why would a ship not defend its points of entry? Why let boarders onto your hull and then just trap them. A cold, unfamiliar feeling began to stir in his gut. It was the first whisper of doubt. He looked at the image of the human ship on his screen. It hung there, dark and silent, not firing its weapons, not trying to flee. It was just waiting. Back on the Vengeance, Engineer Tay watched a new set of readings. Life support adjustment is complete, Captain. We have isolated the environmental flow to the compromised sections. Oxygen is being cycled out. Pressure is being maintained in the airlocks for now, but it is now a separate, closed system. The rest of the ship is secure. Thank you, Tay, Min said. He finally turned to look at Ensign June. Open a channel to the boarders in Airlock 3. Audio only. June nodded, his throat dry. He patched the connection through. The channel crackled with the sound of heavy breathing and the frantic scrape of tools. A voice, rough with anger, came through. Human vermin, face us. Fight with honor. Captain Min leaned slightly toward the microphone. This is the commander of this vessel. You are in violation of our law. You were warned. Your boarding action has classified you as a biological contaminant. There will be no negotiation. There will be no surrender. The Cathari on the other end roared in fury. You dare. We will peel your ship apart from the inside. We will feast on your hearts. Min's voice did not change. It was flat, factual, and utterly cold. You are already dead. You just haven't stopped moving yet. He gestured to June, who cut the channel, silencing the alien's raging screams. The silence on the bridge felt heavier than before. Hana looked from her instruments to the captain. Their ship is moving, sir. Coming around for a closer look. Weapons are charged, but they are not firing. They are confused. They are realizing their mistake, Min said softly. But it is too late for them to take it back. In the dark, cramped space of Airlock 3, the Qatari boarding captain, a warrior named Krax, threw his plasma cutter against the immovable inner door in frustration. The tool clattered on the deck. His warriors looked at him, their confidence turning to worry. They were packed into the small space, their weapons useless. The only light came from their own suit lamps and the faint glow of the warning lights on the airlock. Control panel. Krax looked at that panel. The status indicator for the outer door, which they had destroyed to enter, was red. The indicator for the inner door was also red. But then he saw something else. A small, yellow light he had not noticed before began to blink. Then another. Above each door, a new light activated a bright, white warning beacon. A human voice, recorded and calm, echoed in the chamber from a hidden speaker. Warning. Compartment integrity compromised. Emergency purge sequence initiated. Krax's black eyes went wide. He suddenly understood. The humans had not just locked them in. They had locked them in a box. And now they were going to clean the box, the outer door. He screamed, rushing to the ruined hatch. We must seal it. Use the emergency welders. Now, but it was too late. The sequence was already in motion. The humans were not fighting them. They were simply deleting them. On the bridge of the Vengeance, Engineer Tay's finger hovered over a single clear button on his console. He looked at Captain Min. All the reports were in. The boarders were all confirmed trapped. The internal seals were holding. Sergeant Sue confirmed his Marines were ready. Min gave a single, small nod. Purging contaminated sections, Tay said, and pressed the button. There was no loud noise on the bridge. Only a soft, distant thump that vibrated through the deck plates. On the schematic of the ship, the 3 red glowing points at the airlocks turned black and went silent. The soft thump echoed away into the ship's bones, and then there was a deeper quiet. On the bridge of the Vengeance, The only sounds were the normal hums and beeps of a functioning starship. The terrible screeching of the cutting beams had stopped. The panicked shouts from the Cathari Kung channel had vanished into perfect, empty silence. Ensign June stared at his console. The life sign readings from all 3 boarding points were gone. One moment there had been a cluster of angry, hot signals. The next, there was nothing. Just the cold, empty shell of the airlocks open to space. He felt a chill that had nothing to do with the ship's temperature. Captain Min did not look at the young ensign. He looked at the main screen, where the claw of Dominion still hung, a jagged silhouette against the stars. Status of the breaches? Engineer Tay was already scanning. Airlocks 3 and 7 and maintenance hatch C12 are fully open to vacuum. Hull integrity is stable. The sealant drones have contained the damage to those compartments only. The ship is secure. His voice was professional, but his hands were very still on the console. Good, Min said. He took a slow breath. Hannah, bring us about. Put us on an intercept course with the Cathari vessel. Full power to forward shields. Weapons at the ready. Pilot Hannah's fingers moved. The Vengeance, which had been a passive fortress, now came to life. Its engines glowed with blue fire as it turned smoothly, its nose aiming directly at the heart of the claw of Dominion. It was not a defensive move. It was the beginning of an attack run. On the Cathari ship, Overseer Grawl was consumed by a confusion that was quickly turning into rage. His tactical screens showed the boarding pods still attached, but their interior scans showed nothing, no life signs, no heat, just hollow, empty shells. The human ship's internal sensors were now blocked, but the pod's own systems reported the same. The airlocks they were connected to were open to space. Where are they? Grawl roared at his sensor officer. Where are my warriors? Their life signs? Terminated, Overseer, the officer said, its voice trembling. It appears the humans. They vented the compartments. To space. They killed their own airlocks. Grawl froze. They had killed their own airlocks. They had not fought. They had not tried to capture his elite warriors. They had simply opened a door and let the universe in. It was not a battle tactic. It was extermination. It was clean, clinical, and utterly ruthless. The human commander's words echoed in his mind. You are already dead. Before his fury could find new words, the communication screen lit up. The face of the human captain appeared again. Min's expression was the same as before, calm, unmoved, like a cliff face. Cathari vessel, Min said, his voice devoid of any emotion at all. Your boarding action has failed. Your warriors are dead. You have broken the rule. There are no more warnings. Grawl's rage exploded. You, insect. You, coward. You dare kill Cathari warriors without facing them in combat? You have no honor. I will scatter your atoms across this sector. Spittle flew from his mouth as he screamed. All weapons. Target that ship. Destroy it. Leave nothing. Min did not react to the anger. He spoke as if giving a weather report. You misunderstand. This was not a failure of your boarding action. It was the consequence. You turned my ship into a crime scene. We have now cleaned it. You are the contaminant that remains. He paused, his eyes cold on the screen. And we deal with contaminants. The channel cut off from the human side. At that moment, the Vengeance fired dot. It was not a full volley. It was two precise, bright lances of energy that shot from the human ship. They were not aimed at the Cathari weapons or their bridge. They struck the claw of Dominion's main engine array and the housing of its warp drive. The Cathari shields flared and crackled, absorbing the blow, but the force of the impact made the whole alien ship shudder. Return fire, Min said, his voice devoid of any emotion at all. You are already dead. Before his fury could find new words, the communication screen lit up. The face of the human captain appeared again. Min Grawl screamed. Green bolts of plasma erupted from the spines of the Claw of Dominion, streaking towards the human ship. Hannah was ready. She rolled the Vengeance, not away, but at an angle that made the shots glance off its angled forward shields. The ship vibrated from the impacts, but the shields held. "This is not a duel, Hannah," Min said, his voice still calm. "Take their weapons offline. Then their command spire. They do not get to leave. They do not get to call for help." "Understood," Hannah said, a fierce focus in her eyes. She sent the Vengeance into a hard dive, sliding underneath the larger Cathari ship. The alien vessel was more powerful, but it was also heavier, more ponderous. The Vengeance was a scalpel. As they passed beneath, the human ship's secondary batteries fired, stitching a line of precise hits along the Cathari weapon emplacements. Metal exploded into silent fire in the vacuum. On the Claw of Dominion, alarms blared. Grawl was thrown against his console as another hit rocked the ship. "Evasive maneuvers." "Where are they?" "Target them." "They are too fast, Overseer." "They are targeting our systems, not our hull." Grawl stared at the view screen, now showing the sleek human ship circling back for another pass. It was not trying to kill them immediately. It was dissecting them, taking away their ability to fight, to run, to command. The cold feeling in his gut was now a ball of ice. This was not how prey behaved. He slammed his hand on the combattle, opening a channel to the human ship. "Enough. You have made your point. Cease fire. We will. We will depart." The words tasted like ash in his mouth. Min's face appeared again. He looked almost bored. "It is too late for that. You wanted a prize. You wanted prisoners. You do not get to change your mind when you discover the price." He glanced at something off-screen. "You have one more choice. Tell us where you took the people from Golden 7, the location of your nearest processing facility." Grawl blinked. Was this a bargaining chip? A hope sparked. "And if I tell you, you will let us go?" Min gave a small, slow shake of his head. "No, but I will make your end quicker. If you do not tell me, I will disable your engines completely and leave you here, dead in the water. Then I will find the facility myself. It will just take longer. For you, the waiting will be the worst part." The hope died. This was not a negotiation. It was a sentencing. Grawl felt a terror he had never known. He, who had cowed 100 species, was being erased with cold, simple logic. He looked at the data on his screen. With a shaking hand, he sent a set of coordinates. It was a moon in a nearby system, a slave processing hub. The data appeared on June's screen. "Coordinates received, Captain." "It checks out. It matches the vector of their earlier ion trail." Min nodded. "Thank you." He looked back at Grawl. "A final lesson. You thought the rule was for our protection. It is not. It is for yours." He leaned forward slightly, and for the first time, his voice carried something sharp and terrible. "Human ships don't accept prisoners. We don't take them. And we don't forgive those who try to make us." He cut the channel. He nodded to Hannah. "Finish it. Take out their command spire and primary power. Leave them alive, but leave them silent." The Vengeance swept in for its final pass. A single, focused burst of energy lanced out, striking the central tower of the Cathari ship. Lights all across the Claw of Dominion flickered and died. The green glow from its viewports went dark. It was now just a silent, powerless hulk, spinning slowly in the endless night. On the bridge of the Vengeance, Min turned his chair away from the sight. "Set a course for those coordinates, Hannah. Maximum warp. Our patrol is over. We have new orders." The stars outside the view screen began to stretch into long lines as the warp drive engaged. The ruined Cathari ship was left behind, a dark and silent monument to a broken rule. The warp tunnel collapsed behind the Vengeance, spitting it back into normal space with a shudder. Before them hung a dull gray moon, scarred with canyons. Orbiting it were a handful of blocky, functional structures docks, refueling stations, and a large, fortified complex built into the moon's rocky surface. This was the place. The coordinates from the broken Cathari over Seer Dot. No one on the bridge spoke for a moment. They all looked at the moon on the main screen. It looked cold and dead, but their sensors told a different story. The complex was a hive of energy readings. Life signs, hundreds of them, clustered together in tight, dense groups. And there were other signals, too. The distinct energy signatures of Cathari guards, patrol ships, and heavy ground-to-orbit defensive guns. Ensign June broke the silence, his voice tight, reading over 300 non-Cathari life forms in the main holding block. Captain. Mostly oxygen breathers. Their biosigns are stressed, weak. He took a breath. I'm also picking up transport ships in the docking bay. Empty. Probably waiting for the next shipment. Captain Min's face was set in hard lines. He had seen reports of such places, but seeing the data scroll across his screen was different. This was where the people from Golan 7, and who knew how many other outposts, had been brought. To be processed, sorted, broken. Hana, hold us here, just outside their maximum weapons range, Min ordered. Tay, I need a full scan of their power grid. Find the generators for their shield and their gun batteries. Find the comm array. Already on it, sir, Tay said, his fingers flying. Their systems are old, brutish, not well integrated. I have the targets. Min nodded. He turned to June. Open a channel. Broadcast on all standard frequencies. Every trade language in the database. No visual, audio only. June set it up. Ready, Captain. Min leaned towards the microphone. His voice, when it went out, was clear and hard, echoing through every speaker in the Cathari complex and on every ship in the vicinity. Attention, Cathari holding facility. This is the United Nations ship Vengeance. You are detaining sentient beings against their will. This is a violation of galactic law. You have 5 standard minutes to release all prisoners to the surface and power down all defensive and comm systems. Comply, and you will be spared. Resist, and you will be destroyed. He gestured for June to cut the transmission. The silence that followed was heavy. They won't listen, will they, sir? June asked quietly. No, Min said. They think their walls and their guns make them safe. They need to learn otherwise. Deep inside the moon base, the warden, a bulky Cathari named Crawl, heard the message and laughed, a wet, choking sound. He stood in his control room, surrounded by screens showing the crying, frightened faces of dozens of different species in their cells. He saw the small, single human vessel on his scanner. It was alone. One ship? He snorted to his lieutenant. One human ship dares to give me an ultimatum? Activate the planetary shield. Power up all surface batteries. Launch the patrol interceptors. I want that ship blasted into dust. Send its wreckage down to the prisoners as a lesson. Outside, a dome of shimmering orange energy flickered to life over the main complex. Heavy gun turrets emerged from hidden bunkers, their barrels glowing as they charged. 3 small, fast Cathari fighter ships shot up from a launch bay, screaming towards the Vengeance. On the bridge, alarms chimed softly. Shield is up. Weapons are charging. 3 hostiles incoming, Hana reported, her hands on the controls. Execute suppression fire. Pattern Delta, Min said, his voice still calm. Targets as per Tay's designations. The Vengeance did not move to engage the fighters. Instead, it fired from a distance. But it wasn't firing at the ships or the shield dome itself. It launched a salvo of slender, kinetic penetrators smart missiles with no warhead. They were just heavy, fast-moving rods of dense metal. The Cathari fighters veered to avoid them, but the missiles weren't aimed at them. They streaked past, ignoring the shield which was designed to stop energy weapons. The kinetic rods slammed into the moon's surface, just outside the complex. The first cluster hit the main power relay station feeding the shield generator. The second cluster struck the primary energy hub for the gun batteries. On the surface, the explosions were silent flashes of dirt and rock. In the control room, Warden Crawl's screens suddenly flashed with warning symbols. The humming of the shield generator died. The orange dome flickered once and vanished. The charging lights on the gun turrets went dark. What happened? Crawl roared. Report. The humans. They did not attack the shield. They attacked the power lines. The generators are intact, but the connections are destroyed. The shield is down. The guns have no power. Before Crawl could process this, a third, smaller kinetic rod found its mark. It pierced the main communications array on the roof of the complex, shredding the delicate machinery into scrap. Every outgoing signal died. The 3 Cathari fighters, confused, swung back towards the now vulnerable human ship. Hannah was waiting. With the moon base silenced, she turned the Vengeance's full attention to them. Its point defense cannons spun up and spat precise lines of fire. One fighter vanished in a flash. A second spiraled away, crippled. The third broke off and fled into deep space. Now the Vengeance hung in the sky above the moon, a dark, silent judge. It had not fired a single shot at the main complex. It had surgically removed its teeth and its voice. Min opened the channel again. His voice was the same. Your defenses are neutralized. Your communications are severed. You have 2 minutes to begin releasing prisoners. If you do not, we will target the structure itself. In his control room, Warden Crawl felt the first true fear of his life. This was not a battle. It was a dismantling. He had no shield, no guns, no way to call for help. The human ship was just waiting. He looked at the screens showing the holding blocks. He thought of the humans who had just killed an entire boarding party without losing a single soldier. He thought of the cold, clean voice from the sky. Open. Open the cell blocks, he said, his voice trembling with rage and terror. Heard them to the main surface hangar. Now. Below, in the dark, foul-smelling cells, beings of many shapes looked up as the heavy doors hissed open. Tall, spindly earthen. Stocky, rock-skinned Gron. A handful of terrified humans from a lost freighter. They had been waiting for the worse for the sorting, for the pain-givers, for the slave ships. Instead, the Cathari guards, their arrogance gone, were shoving them into corridors, barking orders to move to the surface. The guards looked scared. That was new. The Vengeance descended, landing in the dusty plain outside the main hangar bay with a soft thump. The rear ramp lowered. Sergeant Sue and his Marines marched out, not in a rush, but in a steady, disciplined line. They did not point their weapons at the emerging crowd of prisoners. They pointed them at the hangar doors. At the dark openings where Cathari might be hiding, Datsu used an external speaker, his voice booming across the rocky ground. You are being freed. Move towards the landed transports in the hangar. Do not run. Help those who cannot walk. We are here. You are safe now. It was not a shout of triumph. It was an instruction. The prisoners, stunned, began to shuffle forward, guided by the Marines' calm gestures. They filled the empty Cathari cargo haulers that had been meant to take them to a life of misery from the bridge, watching through the Marine helmet cams. Captain Min saw the last being a small grandchild. being carried onto a transport by its parent. He turned to June. Send the data packet to the warden's console. Text only. June sent it. In the silent control room, a single line of text appeared on Krall's main screen. It was a quote from an old human text, translated into his language. Do not ask for mercy. You did not bring any with you. Then, a final audio message from Captain Min played, his voice cold in the empty room. You have heard the rule. Pass it on. Human ships do not accept prisoners. We do not take them. We do not tolerate those who do. If you see a human ship, remember what happens when you break the only rule that matters. Outside, the stolen Cathari transports, now full of freed prisoners, lifted off on preset courses to safe zones. The Vengeance waited until the last one was a speck in the sky. Then its engines glowed, and it rose from the gray dust of the moon. It left the facility intact. It left Warden Krall alive, sitting alone in the dark, surrounded by the echoes of crying that were already fading, replaced by the utter silence of his own defeat. He had been spared, but as he looked at the words on his screen, he knew it was not mercy. It was something worse. He was a witness, and he had a story to tell. The bridge of the Vengeance was quiet. The frantic energy of the fight and the tense focus of the liberation were gone. Now there was only the steady hum of the warp drive and the soft light of the consoles. They were on their way home, the freed. Prisoners were gone, their transports safely away on automated courses to friendly outposts. The moon with the Cathari facility was now just a dark spot in the rear scanner logs. On the main view screen, the stars were long, peaceful streaks of light that no one spoke. Pilot Hana guided the ship with gentle touches, her eyes on the navigation data. Engineer Tay was running a full damage report, his brow furrowed in concentration. The ship had minor scrapes and burns from the Cathari fighter attacks, but it was fundamentally sound. It had done its job. Sergeant Sue and his Marines had cleaned their weapons and stored their armor. They were in the mess hall now, eating in a silence that was not uncomfortable, but deep. They had not fired a single shot at a living target. Their job had been to stand, to wait, and to guide the scared and the broken to safety. It was a different kind of fighting. Ensign June sat at his communication station. He was supposed to be compiling the mission log, but his fingers were still. He kept seeing the sensor readings from the airlocks, the cluster of life signs that just blinked out. He kept hearing. The warden's frantic, angry voice replaced by empty silence. He looked at Captain Min, who was staring at the streaking stars, his face unreadable. June cleared his throat. The sound was too loud in the quiet. Captain? Min turned his chair slowly. Yes, Ensign? Sir, back there. On the moon. We left the warden alive. We left the facility standing. He struggled for the words. After everything they did. Why? Won't they just start again? Won't they just rebuild? Min considered the young man for a moment. He saw the conflict there, the need for justice that felt like a clean final blow. He had felt it himself, long ago. They might try, Min said, his voice low, but it won't be the same. We didn't just break their machines, June. We broke their story. June frowned. Their story, sir? The story they tell themselves, Min said. The story that they are the strong, and the rest of the galaxy is weak property. The story that their strength lets them take whatever they want. He gestured towards the view screen, back the way they had come. We showed them something else. We showed them that their strength was an illusion. We walked into their fortress, took what we wanted, and left them standing in the dark, alive, with nothing to fight and no one to hear their screams. He leaned forward slightly. If we had killed him, destroyed it all, we would have been just another enemy. A powerful one, maybe, but just an enemy. A fight they could understand. This way? We are a ghost, a rule. We are the thing that happens when they break the law. We are not conquerors. We are consequences. June thought about this. The K-Thari. Warden, alone in his control room, with the words on his screen. Do not ask for mercy. You did not bring any with you? He wasn't a defeated warrior. He was a messenger. A terrified messenger carrying a very specific tale. Will they ever understand? June asked quietly, why we do it this way. Captain. Min looked back at the streaming stars, a faint, hard smile touching his lips. They don't need to understand, Ensign. They just need to remember, and they will, that Warden will tell his superiors. They will be angry. They will send more ships, maybe. But every one of their captains, from now on, when they see a human, hull on their scanner, they will hear a voice in their mind. Human ships don't accept prisoners. They will hesitate. And in that hesitation, other trading outposts will get away. Other species will have time to hide. The fear will spread faster than any bullet. He stood up, walking to the large view screen. We are not many, June. Humanity is spread thin. We cannot be everywhere to fight every battle. So we must win the battles we choose in a way that wins others we will never see. We make a legend so dark and so cold that it fights for us. The silence returned, but it felt different to June now. It wasn't just the quiet after action. It was the quiet of a lesson being learned across the stars. He thought of the families on those transports, hugging each other in confused joy. He thought of the empty slave pens. He thought of the broken Kafari ship spinning silently, and the untouched facility with its terrified warden dot. It was not a clean victory. It was messy and hard and left loose ends. But it was a victory that would echo. Set a course for the Soul Gate, Hannah, Min said, turning from the screen. It's time to go home and make our report. Yes, sir, Hannah said, inputting the commands. The Vengeance flew on, a single, sharp blade cutting through the endless night. Behind it, in its wake, it left more than a patrolled route. It left a story. On hidden channels, in frightened whispers, the story would begin to spread from the lips of freed Earthen and Gron, from the silence of a broken overseer, from the shaky report of a surviving fighter pilot. The story of the human ship that did not fight with rage, but with a terrible, calm certainty. The ship that turned its own hull into a tomb for boarders. The ship that silenced a fortress without firing a shot at its walls. The ship that took back what was stolen and left the thieves alive to think about what they had done. The legend would grow, changing with each telling, but its core would remain, hard and clear as diamond. A simple, terrifying piece of advice passed between mercenaries, slavers, and pirate kings. If you see a human ship, just leave it alone. Don't hail it, don't threaten it. And stars help you. Never, ever try to board it. Human ships don't accept prisoners. And somewhere, in a dark control room on a gray moon, a warden named Crawl stared at a blank screen, the words burning. In his mind, already beginning to form the first sentence of the warning he would have to give.